the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
So here's an email that came in. And she says, I've been trying to utilize the formula you mention often on your show, I feel when you, and I would like to ask you, please. Problem is, when I use it, the response I get back is, quote, well, I feel X, and pretty much is a mirror of what I say. So, a little sidestep here. We call that defensiveness. It's a classic strategy. Okay. So she goes on, there's no listening, certainly no validation of my feelings. The irony is that I was trying to express how I was feeling hurt and dismissed and criticized by the way he responds to my comments about something. And before I could get to that part of what I would like, he interrupted me and immediately said that he felt hurt. He felt dismissed and criticized, etc. The only thing I could say in response was that I'm being dismissed again, and I had to walk away to avoid blowing up in frustration and anger. I didn't want to walk away because that's the behavior I'm also trying to work on. I also shut down because this doesn't help. And we call that stonewalling, and it's a defensive posture. If I'm not feeling safe, I shut down and get out of there, right? So she asks, what do I do in situations like this? I tried the formula, but the response was mirrored and put back on me. Any guidance is appreciated. All right. So, listen, your husband's behavior is classic defensiveness. And it's really destructive in a marriage, or at least it can be. It's also really common. And then your behavior of shutting down and sometimes walking away is what we call stonewalling, and that's also very common in these situations. So in terms of the four horsemen that I talk about, your interaction pattern seems to be defensiveness on the part of your husband and stonewalling on your part. Pretty typical pattern, not at all unusual in an awful lot of marriages. Okay, typically it's the husband who will get defensive because we don't like being criticized or told that we're anything less than perfect. And the wife gets frustrated and just walks away. Oftentimes the husband will do the same. All right, so what to do about it? Well, I have two potential courses of action that I'd like to throw your way. Okay. First, when he interrupts you, immediately and says that he feels dismissed and criticized, etc., then one good idea would be shift your focus away from your hurt towards his hurt. That may not seem fair, but, stay with me here for a second, right? So now get curious. And you say something like, wow, I don't wish to hurt you or dismiss you or criticize you, right? Can you say more about why you feel this way? How would you like me to talk to you about these issues differently so that you don't feel that way? Because I don't want to dismiss you or to hurt you, right? Appreciate the fact that men have a really hard time with the concept of failure, and we get defensive, and we go to great lengths to prove that we're not a failure, right? So one of the best ways to do is to turn the tables away from what they're doing to what you're doing. So, which is what your husband is doing, right? He'll turn the table and not even address his issue, right? He's attempting to avoid feeling like a failure as a husband. So he's going to change the topic and try to focus on your defects, and then he doesn't have to focus on his. Yeah, it's a defense mechanism to protect his ego, is what's happening. So shift the area to what he's complaining about and talk about it and work through it, assuring him that you want to treat him well and ask what you could do things differently. And then, once you get his situation totally discussed, he gets it all out there, and then you agree to do some things differently, then ask him if it would be okay to talk about some of your concerns. Hopefully he's willing to reciprocate, but maybe not, right? But if you show him that you're open to his thoughts, et cetera, then frankly, if he's turning the tables, he may not have much to actually say, which would be hard for him to defend his position, right? But so that's one way to do it is, all right, let's just focus on you for a while, because your problems are still going to be there for a while. So let's just focus on you, sweetheart. What do you got that's going on? How can I do things different? I'm really sorry that you feel that way, etc. And eventually come back around to, okay, how can I talk to you about my stuff? Now, that's the first option. Just shift focus to talk about his complaints and go from there. Second option is to have an entirely different conversation with your husband. And that would be one where you would talk about your frustrations and his, and suggest that if you both embrace the concept of the formula, you should be able to resolve your problems more easily. And that'll bring more happiness and joy in your marriage, right? Explain to him that all you want to do is bring some happiness into your relationship, smooth out some of the rough spots, and talk about those areas where you're not well synchronized, and see if you can get synchronized. And a good way to do that is by using the formula. And would he be willing to just give that a try? Just say, for a week or two, and go from there. And say, listen, we're not doing real well right now, you and I. And I'm wondering if maybe there'd be some value in us trying to figure out how to communicate better about what our respective frustrations are, and see if we can't fix those so we can get back to being the way we were, when we were first married, right? So, option one, change the direction, deal with his issues. Option two, have a different conversation about the fact that, both of us seem a little frustrated. There's a technique we might be able to use to help us resolve some of these issues so we can get to a happier place. All right. So those are my thoughts. The formula works, but for it to work, well, I think both people have to sign on to say, you know what, this sounds like it would be a good way for us to resolve, our conflicts when they show up. So let's give it a try. And if you can get to that point, then when you hear your spouse start a sentence with the words, I feel, you're going to pay close attention because you're about to learn how you could be a better wife or a better husband, right? But you got to get buy-in, and maybe you could get his buy-in on that. That's my thought. And the other thing I'd say then ultimately is if your spouse just doesn't want to cooperate, if he doesn't want to listen, he doesn't want your feedback, he just kind of wants to stick his head in the sand, there's not a lot you can do about it. You can't make him want to work on the marriage. You can't make him want to cooperate, and you can't make him want to listen. In that case, I think you just have to love him where he is and do the best you can. So I wish I had some, magic formula or some pixie dust or something that could make somebody want to do it right and make somebody want to invest in the marriage and make someone be able to own the fact that, they could do a little better. It's not there. There are ways that if he is willing, you can do it. And the formula is one of those ways.
That was the Best of the Week on Relevant Radio. The best way to listen to the Best of the Week is on the Relevant Radio app. Free and always free. Download and share the #1 free Catholic app today in the App Store.